first breath of real air hit me like a drug. 6 months. That's how long I'd been breathing the same recycled oxygen, filtered through scrubbers and pumped through vents that hummed like a dying refrigerator. 6 months of artificial everything. Artificial light, artificial temperature control, artificial day and night cycles that your body never quite believed. 6 months in a steel tube 300 feet below the surface, where the only thing between you and crushing pressure was engineering and prayer. Now, standing on the deck of the USS Pennsylvania as she pulled into Naval Base Kitsap, I filled my lungs with October air that smelled like salt water, pine trees, and freedom. The pier was chaos. It always was on homecoming day. Families pressed against the barriers holding signs decorated with glitter and markers. Kids bounced on their toes. Wives clutched flowers. A few girlfriends wore their best dresses despite the Washington drizzle. Everyone was crying, laughing, waving American flags. This was what we came back for. This moment, right here. I scanned the crowd from my position on deck, my sea bag already slung over my shoulder, my dress blues crisp despite 6 months in storage. The Navy band was playing something patriotic. A local news crew was filming. Some rear admiral I'd never met was probably giving a speech about honor and sacrifice, but I wasn't listening. I was looking for Amanda, my wife, my high school sweetheart, the woman I'd married 4 years ago in a little chapel outside Virginia Beach, right after I'd finished sub school, the woman who'd promised she'd be waiting, no matter how long I was gone. I found her near the back of the crowd, away from the main press of bodies, and my heart stopped. She was wearing a loose yellow sundress, the kind that flowed and gathered at the waist. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She was smiling, waving, one hand shading her eyes against the weak autumn sun that was trying to break through the clouds. Beautiful. She was still beautiful. But something was wrong. The wind picked up, one of those sudden Puget Sound gusts that comes off the water without warning, her dress pressed against her body. That's when I saw it. The curve, the unmistakable swell of her belly. My wife was pregnant, visibly pregnant. The gangplank dropped. Around me, my brothers from the boat surged forward, whooping and hollering as they ran to their families. I watched Chief Martinez scoop up his twin daughters. Petty Officer Johnson kissed his girlfriend so hard they both stumbled. Seaman Rodriguez's mom was sobbing into his shoulder. I walked down the gangplank like a man heading to an execution. My training kicked in, the same training that kept you calm when alarms blared at 0300, when something went wrong with the reactor, when you had to stay silent and still while enemy destroyers pinged sonar right above your head. Poker face, neutral expression, controlled breathing. Amanda pushed through the crowd as I reached the bottom. She was crying, her mascara already running in black streaks down her cheeks. Her arms opened wide. "Cole! Oh my God, Cole, you're home! You're finally home!" She crashed into me and I caught her automatically, my arms wrapping around her body. She felt different, softer, rounder, pregnant. My wife was pregnant, and I'd been underwater, completely out of contact with the surface world, for 6 months. I'm not a math genius, but even I could do that calculation. "Babe," I said carefully, pulling back to look at her face. My hands moved to her shoulders, holding her at arm's length. What is that?" I nodded toward her stomach. Her face lit up like a Christmas tree. Tears streamed faster. She actually laughed, this bright, joyful sound that would have melted my heart under any other circumstances. "It's a miracle, Cole. It's a miracle. God answered our prayers." I stared at her. "What?" "I'm pregnant." She grabbed my hand and placed it on her belly. I felt the firm swell beneath the fabric. 4 months along, maybe more. "I know it seems impossible, but how far along?" My voice came out flat, monotone. She didn't seem to notice. 4 months! Can you believe it? The doctor said 4 months. "I know." She was bouncing now, practically vibrating with excitement. "I found out about a month after you left. I wanted to tell you so badly, but there's no way to contact the boat when I'm dark," I finished. "Yeah, I know." The silent service, no emails, no phone calls, no contact with the outside world for the entire patrol. That was the deal. That was what kept us safe, kept our positions secret, kept America's nuclear deterrent hidden beneath the waves. It also meant I had no way to know what was happening at home. Amanda threw her arms around my neck again. "I've been dying to tell you. I wanted to surprise you, but then I started showing and I thought maybe you'd see it right away and, oh, Cole, isn't it wonderful? We're going to be parents. Over her shoulder, I saw Amanda's mother approaching, Karen Fletcher, wearing a pink cardigan and mom jeans, her hair freshly permed, her smile wide enough to split her face. Cole, welcome home, sweetheart. She pulled me into a hug the moment Amanda released me. Isn't it wonderful? A deployment baby. It's like something out of a movie. A deployment baby, I repeated slowly. Well, conceived right before you left, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Karen dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. When Amanda told us, we were just over the moon. Bill, get over here. Amanda's father emerged from the crowd, a tall man with graying hair and a firm handshake. Bill Fletcher owned a car dealership in Tacoma and had never quite approved of his daughter marrying a sailor. Not enough money, not enough stability. But right now, he was beaming. Son, congratulations! He grabbed my hand and pumped it enthusiastically. Looks like you and Amanda have been busy, eh? He elbowed me and winked. I forced a smile. It felt like my face was made of concrete. Yeah, busy. We're so excited, Karen gushed. We've already started setting up the nursery at our house for when you two visit, and Amanda's been staying with us some nights. When she gets lonely in that apartment all by herself. That's great, I managed. Amanda grabbed my arm, leaning her head against my shoulder. I know this is a lot to take in. You just got off the boat. You're probably exhausted. But I'm just so happy you're home and we're going to be a family and… Her voice cracked. I missed you so much. I looked down at her tear-stained face, her bright eyes, her hand resting protectively over her belly, over a baby that couldn't possibly be mine. The math was simple, brutal, undeniable. I'd left 6 months ago. She was 4 months pregnant. That meant conception happened 2 months after I'd gone dark, 2 months after I'd descended into the black depths of the Pacific where no phone signal could reach, no email could penetrate, no contact with the surface world was possible. 2 months after I was gone, someone else had been in my bed. But I said nothing. I pulled Amanda close, rested my chin on top of her head, and stared out at the gray waters of Puget Sound. Around us, families celebrated. Children laughed. The news crew filmed a sailor proposing to his girlfriend. The Navy band transitioned into Anchors Away. And Petty Officer First Class Cole Brennan, submarine veteran, nuclear technician, loyal husband, hugged his pregnant wife and felt absolutely nothing. Well, that wasn't quite true. I felt cold. I felt calculated. And I felt the weight of the waterproof pouch in my sea bag, the one tucked into the bottom beneath my extra uniforms and personal effects. The pouch that contained medical records from Naval Hospital Bremerton, records dated 8 months ago, records that proved, with clinical certainty, that I'd had a vasectomy. Amanda pulled back, searching my face. Cole, are you okay? You seem quiet. I smiled, leaned down, kissed her forehead. I'm just in shock, babe, I said softly. It's a lot to process, a miracle, like you said. Her face relaxed. She laughed, relieved. I know, right? Wait until you hear the whole story. The doctor said, let's go home first, I interrupted gently. I want to hear everything, but maybe somewhere private? I've been surrounded by 100 guys for 6 months. I just want some quiet time with my wife. Of course, Karen patted my arm. You two go home. We'll bring dinner by later. I made that pot roast you love, Cole. That sounds perfect, Karen. Thank you. We made our way through the thinning crowd toward the parking lot. Amanda chattered the whole way about her pregnancy symptoms, about the apartment, about something her sister had done last month. I nodded at the right moments, made appropriate sounds. But inside, my mind was already moving. Intelligence gathering, mission planning, target acquisition. This was warfare now, and I'd been trained by the best. As we pulled out of the parking lot, Amanda reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm so glad you're home, she whispered. I squeezed back. Me too, babe, I said. Me too. And for the first time in 6 months, I allowed myself a small, cold smile. Because Amanda didn't know. She had no idea what I'd done before I left. And by the time she figured it out, it would be far too late. 7 months earlier, the urologist's office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. 40 minutes outside of Bremerton in a town I'd never been to before and would never visit again. That was intentional. I'd found Dr. Raymond Chen through careful research, Online reviews, verification of his medical license, confirmation that he had no affiliation with Naval Hospital Bremerton or any military medical facility. I'd paid cash for the consultation. I'd driven Amanda's car instead of my truck. I told her I was doing pre-deployment physical training with some guys from the boat. All lies, but necessary ones. I sat in the waiting room, filling out paperwork with a pen that barely worked, and tried not to think too hard about what I was doing. Around me, other men waited, some older, some younger, all wearing the same expression of vague discomfort. Nobody made eye contact. This wasn't the kind of medical procedure you bragged about. "Mr. Brennan?" A nurse appeared in the doorway. "Dr. Chen will see you now." The exam room was small, clinical, decorated with anatomical posters that made me deeply uncomfortable. Dr. Chen was a thin man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and the calm demeanor of someone who'd had this conversation 1,000 times. "So," he said, settling onto his rolling stool and reviewing my intake forms, "you're interested in a vasectomy. You're 26 years old, married for 4 years, no children. Can you tell me what's prompting this decision?" I'd rehearsed this answer. "My wife and I aren't ready for kids yet. I'm active duty Navy, submarine service. I'm about to deploy for 6 months. We want to wait until I'm out, until we're more financially stable." All technically true, also completely beside the point. Dr. Chen nodded. "Have you discussed this with your wife?" "We've discussed not wanting children right now," I said carefully. Which was also true, in a way. Amanda had always said she wanted to wait, that we were too young, that there was plenty of time, right up until 3 months ago. 3 months ago, when I'd come home early from duty and found her on the phone in the bathroom, door closed, voice low, when she jumped at the sound of me in the hallway and quickly ended the call. 3 months ago, when I'd started noticing things. Little things. Her phone screen always facing down. New passwords I didn't know. Late nights at the gym that left her makeup perfect and her hair unsweaty. And the name that kept appearing in her texts, Derek. Derek, her boss at the dental office where she worked as a receptionist. Derek, who was divorced, good-looking, drove a BMW. Derek, who Amanda mentioned just a little too often, laughed at his jokes a little too hard. I'd done what any suspicious husband would do. I'd looked, not proud of it, but I'd looked. I'd found text message threads that were deleted but not quite deleted enough, cached in her iCloud backup that she didn't know. I had access to flirty messages, nothing explicit, nothing I could confront her with, but enough to plant seeds. "You looked amazing today. Wish I could stay longer. He's deploying soon, 6 months." And then, the one that made my blood run cold. "Remember that scare we had last year? Thank God that was negative LL. A pregnancy scare, with Derek, last year, while she was married to me. I'd sat in our apartment staring at that message for an hour, watching the words blur and refocus, last year. When I'd been on shore duty, coming home every night, sleeping beside her, completely oblivious. She'd been fucking someone else, and they'd had a pregnancy scare, and I'd known nothing. That was the moment I'd decided, insurance policy. If she was loyal, if I was wrong, if I was just being paranoid, then the vasectomy changed nothing. We weren't trying for kids anyway. I could get it reversed later if we decided we wanted children. But if she wasn't loyal, then I'd know. Dr. Chen was still talking. "The procedure is permanent, though reversal is sometimes possible. You need to be certain this is what you want." "I'm certain," I said. "And you understand that it takes about 3 months and 20 ejaculations to confirm sterility? We'll need to do a sperm count analysis to verify." "I understand." He studied me for a long moment. I could see him doing the calculation, young sailor, about to deploy, not telling his wife. He'd seen this before. Maybe not the exact scenario, but variations on the theme. Guys who came back from deployment to discover their girlfriends were pregnant. Wives who'd filed for divorce while their husbands were underwater. The silent service had a saying, "Submarines once, divorces twice." Dr. Chen sighed. "All right, let's discuss the procedure." 2 weeks later. The vasectomy itself was quick. Local anesthetic, 45 minutes. I drove myself home and told Amanda I'd tweaked my back during PT and needed to rest. She'd brought me ice packs and ibuprofen and kissed my forehead. "Poor baby," she'd said. "Just take it easy." I'd smiled and thanked her and felt absolutely nothing. The recovery took a week. The follow-up appointment confirmed it. Sterile. Completely. Irreversibly. My sperm count was 0. I'd tucked the medical records into a waterproof pouch and buried them at the bottom of my sea bag. Insurance policy. Activated. 5 months ago, the USS Pennsylvania slipped beneath the surface of the Pacific on a gray February morning, and the world above ceased to exist. This was my 3rd patrol, but you never really got used to it. The descent, the sensation of pressure building around the hull, the knowledge that you were sinking into darkness so complete that no light from the surface could possibly reach you. 300 feet down, 400, 500. The boat leveled off. The deck plates steadied. Around me, 98 other sailors moved through their routines with the practiced efficiency of men who lived in a space smaller than most people's houses. Welcome to submarine life. 18-hour days, 6 hours of sleep if you were lucky, 4 if you weren't. Hot racking, sharing bunks with guys on opposite shifts, sleeping in sheets still warm from someone else's body. Showers limited to 2 minutes because fresh water was a precious resource. The constant, endless hum of machinery that you heard even in your dreams. And the smell. God, the smell. 99 men living in a sealed tube, breathing recycled air, eating food prepared in a galley the size of a walk-in closet. They tried to filter it, but after a week, everyone just smelled like submarine. A unique combination of diesel, hydraulic fluid, industrial cleaner, and humanity. My rack was in the torpedo room, sandwiched between 2 other junior enlisted guys. The nuclear warheads were 20 feet away, separated by a bulkhead and some very serious security protocols. You learn not to think about it. You learn not to think about a lot of things, like the fact that you were sleeping next to a nuclear reactor, like the fact that the only thing between you and the crushing weight of the ocean was steel plating and engineering, like the fact that if something went catastrophically wrong, there was no escape, no rescue, no hope. You just didn't think about it. Instead, you focused on your job. I was an electronics technician, ET2 Brennan, responsible for maintaining the boat's electronic systems, navigation, communication, fire control. I knew every circuit board, every wiring harness, every diagnostic sequence by heart. 6 months of this, 6 months of fluorescent lights and artificial days, 6 months of no sun, no fresh air, no contact with the surface world, no way to know what was happening at home. I thought about Amanda constantly those first few weeks. Wondered what she was doing, whether she missed me, whether she was being faithful, whether Derek was in my bed. The thought made me want to punch through bulkheads, but I couldn't afford that. Couldn't afford to lose focus. Down here, distraction killed. One mistake, one moment of inattention, and you could flood a compartment, crash into a seamount, start a reactor incident that would irradiate everyone aboard. So I buried it, compartmentalized. Another thing the Navy taught you. Chief Martinez found me one night in the torpedo room, sitting on my rack, staring at a photo of Amanda I'd taped to the bulkhead. She was smiling at the camera, hair blowing in the wind, standing on the beach at La Push. We'd driven out there on my last shore leave before everything went wrong, before I'd found the texts. "You good, Brennan?" Chief asked quietly. "Yeah, Chief, just thinking." He nodded. Sat down on the rack across from me. Chief Martinez was 42, on his 6th patrol, divorced twice. He'd seen it all. "Girl back home?" he asked. "Wife." "Ah." He was quiet for a moment. "First deployment married?" "Second, but the first one was only 3 months. This one's 6. 6 months is a long time," Chief said carefully. I looked at him. "Yeah, it is." He held my gaze for a second, and I saw understanding there, not pity, just recognition, one sailor to another. "Best thing you can do," he said finally, "is focus on the mission. Everything else works itself out eventually, one way or another." "Yes, Chief." He stood, clapped me on the shoulder, and headed back to his own rack. I stared at Amanda's photo for a long time after that. One way or another, the irony wasn't lost on me. While I was 300 feet underwater, monitoring reactor temperatures and running diagnostics on fire control systems, protecting American interests in a steel tube full of nuclear weapons, while I was missing sunlight and fresh food and the basic human experience of seeing the horizon, while I was serving my country in the most dangerous, claustrophobic, demanding service in the entire military, my wife was back in Bremerton, probably f***ing her boss. and getting pregnant with his child, thinking I'd never know, thinking 6 months of radio silence meant she could do whatever she wanted, and I'd come home none the wiser, thinking she could pass off another man's baby as mine. She had no idea about the vasectomy, no idea that I'd planned for exactly this scenario, no idea that I was 3 steps ahead. Somewhere in the 4th month of patrol, I stopped thinking about Amanda entirely, not because I didn't care, but because I'd already decided what I was going to do when I got home. I just had to wait. Patience was something submarine service taught you real well. You could wait in silence for days, weeks, months. You could wait until the perfect moment. And when that moment came, you struck fast, clean, and without mercy. The silent service. Turns out, that was good advice for more than just hunting enemy submarines. The key to a good deception is commitment. I learned that in submarine school. When you're running silent, hunting enemy vessels or hiding from them, every single person on the boat has to be absolutely committed to the act. One noise, one dropped wrench, one slammed hatch, one careless footstep, and you give away your position. Stealth requires discipline. So I committed. What about this color? Amanda held up 2 paint swatches in the middle of Home Depot's paint aisle. Sky blue or ocean mist? I pretended to study them seriously. Ocean mist, softer, more calming. Her face lit up. That's exactly what I was thinking. See, you're going to be such a good dad. You already have the instincts. I smiled and kissed her forehead. Just want everything perfect for our son. Our son. The lie tasted like copper on my tongue. But I said it. I said it often. I plastered that fake smile on my face and played the role of excited father-to-be with the same precision I brought to reactor maintenance. We bought the paint. We bought a crib that required 3 hours and 2 YouTube videos to assemble. We bought tiny clothes that seemed impossibly small, little shoes that would fit in the palm of my hand, stuffed animals and blankets and a mobile with smiling moons and stars. I painted the nursery on a Saturday. Amanda sat in the doorway, one hand on her growing belly, watching me work. You missed a spot, she teased. Where? Right there, by the window. I fixed it, painted carefully, methodically, while my mind ran calculations. She was 5 months along now. The baby would be born in 4 months. That gave me 4 months to plan, 4 months to prepare, 4 months to build my case. Patience. Cole? Amanda's voice went soft. Are you happy? Really happy? I turned to look at her. She was beautiful in the afternoon light, her dark hair falling around her shoulders, her skin glowing with that pregnancy radiance everyone talked about. She looked vulnerable, young, almost innocent. Almost. I'm happy, I lied. This is everything I ever wanted. She smiled, but something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Relief? I couldn't tell. I know it's not ideal timing, she said quietly, with your career and everything, but it's perfect timing. I interrupted, walked over to her, knelt down and placed my hand on her belly. The baby kicked against my palm, and I felt absolutely nothing. We're going to be a family. She put her hand over mine, and for just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The first ultrasound appointment was on a Tuesday. I took leave from the base, put on civilian clothes, and drove Amanda to the OB/GYN clinic in Tacoma. The waiting room was full of pregnant women in various stages, their partners sitting beside them, looking either excited or terrified. I went with excited. First baby? The receptionist asked cheerfully as Amanda checked in. Yes, ma'am, I said. We're pretty pumped. Oh, how wonderful. And thank you for your service. She'd clocked the Navy Federal Credit Union debit card when Amanda handed over her insurance information. Just doing my job, ma'am. We sat. Amanda squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. Amanda Brennan? A nurse appeared in the doorway. The ultrasound room was dark except for the glow of the monitor. The technician, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, squirted cold gel on Amanda's exposed belly and pressed the transducer against her skin. There's your baby, she said, pointing at the gray blob on the screen. Strong heartbeat, measuring right on track for 22 weeks. 22 weeks, 5.5 months. I'd been underwater for 6 months when I came home 2 weeks ago. The math was impossible, and yet here we were. Would you like to know the sex? The technician asked. Amanda looked at me. Do you want to know? Whatever you want, babe. Let's find out, she decided. The technician moved the transducer, clicking measurements, freezing images. Congratulations, it's a boy. Amanda started crying, happy tears streaming down her face. A boy! Cole, we're having a boy! I watched her cry and felt the cold rage settle deeper into my chest. A boy. Derek's boy. That's amazing, I said softly. Our son. The technician printed out photos, grainy black and white images of the baby in profile, tiny hands visible, spine like a string of pearls. Amanda clutched them to her chest the whole drive home. We need to pick a name, she said. What do you think about Matthew? Or maybe Jackson? Those are good names, I said. We've got time to decide. Not much time. But enough. The investigation began that night. Amanda fell asleep easily these days. Pregnancy exhaustion, she said. By 10 p.m., she was out cold, snoring softly beside me in our bed. I waited an hour, watched her breathing, made sure she was deep under. Then I slipped out of bed and retrieved her phone from the nightstand. She'd changed her passcode. Of course she had. But I'd watched her enter it enough times, seen the pattern of her thumb movements. Third try, I got it. 6827. The phone glowed in the darkness. I carried it to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the tub, started scrolling. Her text messages were, careful. Most of the obvious stuff had been deleted. Conversations with her mom, her sister, her friends from work, all innocuous. Baby talk, complaints about swollen ankles, plans for the shower, but people always forget something. I checked her email. Nothing. I checked her social media. Nothing obvious. Then I found it. A messaging app I'd never seen before. Some encrypted service that looked like a calculator icon on her home screen. Clever. If you didn't know what it was, you'd never look twice. I opened it. The conversation history made my blood run cold. Derek. Can't believe he bought it. Amanda. I told you he would. He's not exactly the suspicious type. Derek. Still risky. What if he wants a paternity test? Amanda. Why would he? He thinks it's his. Men are stupid when they want to believe something. Derek. Fair enough. So what's the plan after the baby comes? Amanda. Give it 6 months. Let him bond. Then file for divorce. Derek. Why wait? Amanda. Military benefits, child support, spousal support. If I file now, I get less. If I wait until after the baby's born and he's attached, I can claim he's been the father figure. More money. Derek. You're devious. I like it. Amanda. I learned from the best. Derek. What if he fights it? Amanda. He won't. He's too nice, too honorable. That's why I married him. Safe bet. Good benefits, and dumb enough not to ask questions. I read it 3 times. Then I took screenshots, emailed them to myself from a burner email account I'd set up, deleted the sent message, cleared the history. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I thought they would be. But I felt calm, cold, analytical. This wasn't emotion anymore. This was mission planning. I scrolled further back in the conversation, found more, messages from when I'd been underwater, Derek sending her photos of the ultrasounds, Amanda joking about how she'd have to be careful at the anatomy scan, make sure the dates lined up, planning how to break the news to me when I got home. There was even a message thread about the vasectomy possibility. Amanda. What if he had a vasectomy without telling me? Derek. Would he do that? Amanda. No, he's too straight-laced, too by the book. He wouldn't go behind my back like that. Derek. Then you're fine. Stop worrying. I almost laughed. Almost. Too by the book. Too honorable. She thought she knew me. She had no idea. I kept scrolling. Found more messages. Worse ones. Messages making fun of me. My career. The way I talked about the Navy. The way I got excited about re-enlisting. About making chief someday. Amanda. He thinks he's hot because he works on a submarine. It's pathetic. Derek. At least he's gone half the year. Makes this easier. Amanda. True. Best of both worlds. His paycheck, your... I stared at that message for a long time. Then I took more screenshots. Dozens of them. Every incriminating message I could find. Dates, times, explicit planning. The whole conspiracy laid out in text form. Enough to bury her in any court in the country. When I was done, I cleared the history again. Closed the app. Placed her phone back exactly where I'd found it on the nightstand. Then I went back to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. The man looking back at me was calm, composed, cold. This was the same face I wore when reactor alarms blared, when we drilled for flooding scenarios, when we practiced emergency surface procedures in the middle of the night. Crisis mode, mission focus. Amanda thought she was playing me, thought she had it all figured out. Wait 6 months after the baby was born, file for divorce, take me for everything I was worth, laugh all the way to the bank with Derek. She thought I was stupid. Honorable. Too nice to fight back. She was wrong about that. I dried my hands and went back to bed, slipped under the covers. Amanda stirred, reached for me in her sleep. "Cole," she murmured. "I'm here, babe." She curled against me, her pregnant belly pressing against my side. "Love you. Love you too," I whispered into the darkness, and started counting down the days, 4 months until the baby was born. Amanda wanted to wait 6 months after that to file for divorce, but I wasn't going to wait that long. I was going to end this on my terms, my timeline, and I was going to make sure everyone, her family, her friends, Derek, the whole damn world, knew exactly what she'd done. The silent service taught you patience, but it also taught you how to strike. Fast, precise, devastating. I just needed the right moment, and I was pretty sure I knew exactly when that would be. The backyard of Karen and Bill Fletcher's house in Tacoma was decorated like something out of a Pinterest fever dream. Baby blue and white balloons clustered at every corner. Streamers hung from the covered patio. A long folding table groaned under the weight of gifts wrapped in pastel paper with little sailboats and anchors, because of course they had to lean into the Navy theme. Someone had ordered a 3-tier cake decorated with fondant whales and the words, "Welcome baby boy Brennan," in swirling script. There was even a goddamn banner stretched between 2 trees. "Ahoy, it's a boy." 50 people, maybe more. Amanda's entire extended family, her friends from high school, her coworkers from the dental office, neighbors, people I'd never met who smiled and congratulated me like they'd known me for years. And Derek. Derek was there. He stood near the drink table wearing khakis and a polo shirt, holding a beer, laughing at something Amanda's cousin said. Tall, fit, confident. Everything about his posture screamed entitlement. This was the man who'd been sleeping with my wife, who'd gotten her pregnant, who'd helped her plan to take me for everything I was worth, and he had the audacity to show up at my baby shower. I watched him from across the yard, and something cold and final settled into place behind my ribs. Today. It was happening today. "Cole!" Karen rushed over, pulling me into a hug that smelled like perfume and wine. "There you are. We were wondering when you'd get here. Isn't this wonderful? Doesn't everything look beautiful?" "It's perfect, Karen. Thank you for putting this together." "Oh, it was nothing. We're just so excited." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "And between you and me, Amanda's been so emotional lately. The hormones, you know. This party is exactly what she needs. Just joy and celebration and family." "Absolutely," I said, smiled. Felt nothing. Amanda appeared at my elbow, glowing in a white maternity dress that emphasized her belly. She was 7 months along now. The baby, Derek's baby, was due in 2 months, but she wouldn't make it that long before her world collapsed. "Babe, you made it!" She kissed my cheek. "Everyone's been asking about you. Come on, you need to meet some people." She dragged me through the crowd. I shook hands, accepted congratulations, nodded at stories about pregnancy and childbirth that I'd never need, smiled until my face hurt. The whole time my phone sat heavy in my pocket, loaded, ready, chambered. "And this is Derek," Amanda said brightly. "He's my boss at the office. Derek, this is my husband, Cole." Derek extended his hand. His smile was perfect, practiced. "Cole, great to finally meet you, man. Amanda talks about you all the time." "I bet she does." I shook his hand. Firm grip, eye contact. "Derek, thanks for coming. Wouldn't miss it. It's so exciting. You guys must be over the moon." "We are," I said evenly. "It's been quite a journey." Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty? He couldn't tell if I was being sincere or if there was an edge under my words. Good. Let him wonder. "Well," Derek said, releasing my hand. "Congratulations, man. Seriously, you're a lucky guy." "Yes," I said softly. "I am." Amanda pulled me away before the silence could get uncomfortable. We made more rounds. Her sister, her high school friends, a couple of guys from my old boat who'd driven up for the party. Chief Martinez was there. He took one look at my face and pulled me aside near the garage. "You good, Brennan?" "Never better, Chief." He studied me. Chief had 42 years of life experience and 20 years in the Navy. He could read a man's face like a sonar screen. "What are you about to do?" he asked quietly. "The right thing." That's not an answer. I met his eyes. "You remember what you told me on the boat? That everything works itself out eventually?" "Yeah. Today's eventually." Chief was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "You need anything?" "Just watch." "Ooh yeah, son." He clapped me on the shoulder and melted back into the crowd. At 3 p.m., Karen called everyone to gather around the patio for the cake cutting and gender reveal, even though everyone already knew it was a boy. The crowd assembled, holding phones up to record. Someone handed Amanda a knife. "Wait," I called out. "Before we cut the cake, I want to say something." Amanda looked at me, surprised. "Oh, of course, babe. Everyone, Cole wants to make a speech." The crowd quieted down. I pulled my phone from my pocket, walked over to the large flat-screen TV that Bill had wheeled outside for the occasion, ostensibly to play a slideshow of Amanda's pregnancy photos. "Mind if I connect to this?" I asked Bill. Sure, go ahead." I plugged in the HDMI adapter. My phone screen mirrored onto the 65-inch display. Amanda was smiling at me from across the patio, one hand on her belly. Karen had her phone out, recording. Derek stood near the back, beer in hand. Everyone was watching. Perfect. I cleared my throat, tapped my beer bottle with a fork. "I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you to Karen and Bill for hosting this. Thank you to everyone who came out to celebrate with us today. It means a lot." Murmurs of approval. Someone said, "Hear, hear." When I found out Amanda was pregnant, I continued, I was shocked. I'd just come home from a 6-month deployment. 6 months underwater on the USS Pennsylvania. No sunlight, no phone calls, no contact with the outside world. That's what we do in the silent service. We go dark, we stay dark, and when we surface, I paused, let the moment stretch. Well, sometimes we surface to surprises. Nervous laughter. Amanda's smile flickered slightly. I swiped to the first image on my phone. It appeared on the TV screen, an ultrasound photo, the same one from Amanda's first appointment. But this version had the medical information visible at the top: patient name, date of scan, and most importantly, estimated conception date. "This is our first ultrasound," I said. "Beautiful, right? You can see our baby boy right there. And if you look at the top of the image," I pointed with my beer bottle, "you can see the estimated conception date, June 15th. Some people in the crowd squinted at the screen. Others looked confused about where this was going. Amanda's face had gone pale. "June 15th, I repeated. "That's interesting." "Because—" I swiped to the next image. My official deployment orders, USS Pennsylvania. Departure date, March 12th. Return date, September 10th. I left for deployment on March 12th, 3 months before conception. I was 300 feet underwater, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, operating a nuclear submarine when this baby was conceived. The crowd went silent. You could hear the wind rustling through the trees. "Now," I said conversationally, "I'm not a doctor, but I do know basic biology. And even with the Navy's advanced technology, we haven't figured out how to conceive a child through 300 feet of ocean water in a titanium hull." Someone gasped. Amanda's mother turned to look at her daughter. "Cole?" Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. I swiped to the third image. Medical records, Naval Hospital Bremerton logo, my name. Date of procedure, February 3rd. The word vasectomy in bold letters across the top. "This," I said, and my voice was perfectly calm, perfectly level, "is my vasectomy certificate, dated 7 months ago, 2 months before I deployed. Confirmed sterile, 0 sperm count." The silence was deafening. "So unless this baby is the second coming of Christ," I said, taking a sip of my beer, "or unless he's a Navy SEAL who somehow swam out to my submarine 900 miles offshore, it's not mine." Amanda made a sound like a wounded animal. Bill Fletcher's face had gone purple. "What the hell is this?" "Dad," Amanda started. "Is this true?" Bill roared. I swiped again. Text message screenshots filled the screen, the conversation between Amanda and Derek, every incriminating message, every joke at my expense, every detail of their plan. I didn't need to say anything. The words spoke for themselves. He's dumb enough not to ask questions. Best of both worlds. His paycheck, give it 6 months after the baby, then divorce, maximum child support. Karen's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. Oh my God. Amanda, what did you do? All eyes turned to my wife. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face, her hands protectively over her belly. Cole, please, she sobbed. Let me explain. Explain what? I asked calmly. Explain how you've been sleeping with your boss. Explain how you got pregnant with his baby while I was serving my country. Explain how you plan to divorce me and take me for everything I'm worth. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. I gestured to the TV screen. It's all right there. In your own words. The crowd erupted. People shouting, Karen crying, Amanda's sister screaming at her, someone yelling about calling a lawyer. And Derek. Derek had gone white as a sheet. He was backing toward the gate, trying to disappear. Derek, I called out. My voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He froze. Don't leave on my account, I said. This is your party too. You're the father after all. You should be here for the gender reveal. Bill Fletcher turned, spotted Derek, and the recognition hit him like a freight train. You're the one? Derek's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Bill started toward him. Derek bolted, literally ran through the back gate and disappeared into the alley. 2 of Amanda's cousins chased after him. The backyard descended into absolute chaos. Karen was sobbing, clutching her husband. Amanda's friends were gathering their purses, backing away, filming everything on their phones. The guys from my boat stood near Chief Martinez, stone-faced, arms crossed. Witnesses. I'd made sure to invite witnesses. Amanda stood in the middle of it all, alone, crying so hard she could barely breathe. How could you? Karen screamed at her daughter. How could you do this? To Cole, to our family, to yourself? I didn't mean, Amanda gasped. I didn't think. You didn't think? Bill's voice was thunder. You didn't think we'd find out? You didn't think there would be consequences? Amanda turned to me. Her eyes were desperate, pleading. Cole, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. I'll fix this. I'll do anything. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd trusted. You made your choice, I said quietly. Now you live with it. Cole, please. I disconnected my phone from the TV, slipped it back into my pocket. The screenshots disappeared, replaced by the home screen's default blue background. The evidence was already emailed to my lawyer, to Jag, to myself at 3 different email addresses, secured, locked down, irrefutable. I'll be by the apartment tomorrow to get my things, I told Amanda. Don't be there. Where am I supposed to go? She wailed. That's not my problem anymore. I turned to Karen and Bill. Despite everything, they'd always been decent to me. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but you deserve to know the truth. Karen was crying too hard to respond. Bill just nodded, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. I walked through the silent crowd. People parted from me like the Red Sea. Nobody spoke. Nobody tried to stop me. Chief Martinez fell into step beside me as I reached the driveway. So did the other guys from the boat, a silent honor guard. We walked to our cars without looking back. Behind us, I could hear Amanda's anguished sobbing, her mother's crying, the rising volume of arguments and recriminations. I sat in my truck for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the suburban street lined with minivans and American flags. My phone buzzed, a text from my lawyer. Got the files. Holy call me Monday. Another text from Chief. Beer's on me tonight. You did good, son. I started the engine and pulled away from the curb. In my rearview mirror, I could see people spilling out of the backyard, still arguing, still shouting. But I was already gone. 6 months underwater. I'd waited. 6 months of silence and darkness and patience. And in 30 minutes, I'd ended it. Clean, precise, devastating. The silent service taught you well. I drove back to base, windows down, breathing free air, and didn't feel a goddamn thing except relief. Mission accomplished. The silence in my truck was absolute. I drove back to base in the fading afternoon light, hands steady on the wheel, mind clear. No radio, no music, just the hum of the engine and the sound of tires on asphalt. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, text after text lighting up the screen in my cup holder. Amanda's sister, you're a monster. Amanda's friend, how could you humiliate her like that? Unknown number. You didn't have to do it in front of everyone. I didn't read them. Didn't respond, just watched the notifications pile up like casualties on a damage report. Then, one came through that made me smile. Bill Fletcher. Come by the house Tuesday. We need to talk. Just you and me. Not angry, not accusatory, just tired. I texted back, yes, sir. 3 days later, I met Bill at a coffee shop off base, neutral territory. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 72 hours. Gray stubble on his jaw, dark circles under his eyes, the kind of exhaustion that came from your world breaking apart. He bought us both black coffee and sat down heavily across from me. She moved back home, he said without preamble. Karen wanted to kick her out, but she's still our daughter, and she's pregnant. I understand. Derek's gone. Quit his job, left the state from what we hear. Blocked Amanda on everything, doesn't want anything to do with the baby. Coward, I said quietly. Bill nodded. Yeah, he is. He wrapped both hands around his coffee cup. Cole, I need to say something. Karen and we had no idea. If we'd known, I know you didn't. We thought it was a miracle. We were so happy for you both. His voice cracked. I feel like such a fool. You're not the fool here, Bill. He looked up at me. His eyes were red. She's my daughter. I love her. But what she did to you, there's no excuse. None. We sat in silence for a moment. The house you two were renting, Bill said finally. It's in our name. The lease ends next month. You don't owe anything. I'll handle it. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You served your country while my daughter destroyed your marriage. It's the least I can do. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a check for the furniture you bought, the stuff for the nursery, all of it. I know it doesn't fix anything, but... Bill. I pushed the envelope back across the table. Keep it. Put it toward the baby. He's going to need it. Bill's face crumpled. For a moment, I thought he might cry. You're a better man than I gave you credit for. I'm just a man who doesn't want to be lied to. He nodded, took the envelope back, stood up and offered his hand. I shook it. Good luck, son, he said. You deserve better than what she gave you. So do you, sir. 6 weeks later. The DNA test results came back on a Tuesday. Not that I needed them, I already knew, but the Navy wanted documentation, JAG wanted documentation, the divorce court wanted documentation, so I'd gone to the clinic, provided a saliva sample, and waited. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Clean, clinical, irrefutable. The divorce proceedings moved faster than any military operation I'd ever seen. When you had a vasectomy certificate, deployment records, text messages planning fraud, and a DNA test all lined up in a row, there wasn't much to argue about. Amanda's lawyer tried, claimed emotional distress, claimed I'd entrapped her somehow by not disclosing the vasectomy, claimed the public humiliation was abusive. My JAG lawyer, a sharp-eyed commander named Patterson who'd seen 1,000 cases just like this, shredded every argument in about 10 minutes. Your client committed adultery while Petty Officer Brennan was deployed, she said flatly. She became pregnant with another man's child. She attempted to pass that child off as his, and she planned to divorce him specifically to maximize her financial gain from military benefits. There is no entrapment here. There is fraud. The judge, a civilian, but one who'd presided over plenty of military divorce cases, agreed. No alimony, no division of assets, no claim to my military benefits or retirement. Clean break. I walked out of that courthouse a free man. Chief Martinez was waiting on the steps. He'd taken the day off to be there. How'd it go? He asked. It's done. He clapped me on the shoulder. Good. Now you can move on. Yeah, I said. I can. We walked to his truck. He drove us to a bar near the base, the kind of place where sailors went to decompress, where nobody asked questions, where everybody understood. Over beer and silence, I thought about everything that had happened, the discovery, the waiting, the planning, the execution, the absolute destruction of a life I'd thought I was building. You ever regret it? Chief asked quietly. The way you did it? I considered that, took a long drink of my beer. No, I said finally. She made her choices. I just made sure everybody knew what those choices were. Some people think you went too far. Some people weren't the ones being lied to. Chief nodded. Fair point. 3 months later, I heard through the scuttlebutt that Amanda had a boy. 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Healthy. Derek never showed up at the hospital. Her parents were there. They'd help raise him. The kid would be okay. But he wasn't mine. Would never be mine. And I was okay with that. I re-enlisted, signed on for another 4 years. The Navy was my family now. The boat was my home. The silent service was where I belonged. Some guys from the boat asked me about it once, over beers in the torpedo room during a port call. "Don't you miss it?" Seaman Rodriguez asked. "Being married, having someone waiting for you?" I thought about Amanda, about the lies, about the life she'd tried to trap me in. "The thing about the silent service," I said slowly, "is that it demands absolute trust. When you're 300 feet underwater in a steel tube full of nuclear weapons, you have to trust every single person on board. Trust that they'll do their job. Trust that they'll follow orders. Trust that they won't break under pressure." I took a sip of my beer. Marriage is the same. It's a sealed environment. What happens inside those walls, nobody else sees. No witnesses, no oversight, just trust. "So what happens when that trust breaks?" Rodriguez asked. "Then the whole thing floods," I said, "and everybody drowns." The guys were quiet after that. Chief Martinez raised his beer. "To the ones who keep their vows." We all drank to that. 18 months later, present day. I'm writing this from my rack on the USS Pennsylvania, 300 feet below the surface, somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. We've been underway for 2 months, 4 more to go. The boat hums around me. 98 other sailors going about their duties. Men I trust with my life, men who trust me with theirs. Sometimes I think about Amanda, wonder if she ever thinks about me, wonder if she tells her son about the sailor who almost became his father. Mostly, I don't think about her at all. The Navy taught me a lot of things. How to operate a nuclear reactor, how to survive in a sealed environment, how to stay silent when enemies are hunting you. But the most important thing it taught me was this: loyalty isn't optional. It's the foundation everything else is built on. Without it, you have nothing. With it, you can survive anything. Amanda didn't understand that. She thought the uniform was just a paycheck, benefits, a convenient cover story while I was gone. She didn't understand that when you marry the uniform, you marry everything it stands for: honor, duty, sacrifice, loyalty. The silent service goes deep, stays quiet, surfaces when the mission demands it. And when we surface, we expect the people waiting for us to have held the line. If they haven't, well, then they find out what happens when you betray a submariner. We don't yell, we don't break, we don't collapse. We just go cold, go silent, and strike with everything we've got. I close my eyes and listen to the hum of the boat. This is home now. This is family. This is where I belong. And out there, somewhere above the surface, in the world of sunlight and air and lies, Amanda is learning the same lesson a lot of people learn too late. The uniform demands loyalty. If you can't give it, don't marry it.